Welcome to your Daily 5 for Thursday, March 20th, 2025. I didn't actually watch the Oscars this year, but it's funny because there's been a couple of things that have come out of them that I've been talking about, which is just sort of odd that something that I really have no awareness of has nonetheless generated now at least 2 5s. And this one is in some part tied back to comments made by, I don't know if it was a director or writer named Sean Baker. I'm honestly not sure, and I didn't bother to look it up. But in part of the acceptance speech for an award that he got, he said something along the lines, basically encouraging people. He said he was going to make films for theaters, and basically that was the best way to make movies, and he hopes more people do. Sort of echoing a general sentiment by a lot of filmmakers about the movie-going experience and why it's best done in a theater. And as you might expect, a lot of YouTubers who are cinephiles or fancy themselves cinephiles have taken this up as a rallying cry to, yes, people have to go back to the theaters. And this is not something new. I've talked about this at least once before, but now it's come up again. And in fact, one of them said that there should be a 3 to 4 week theatrical lockdown on movies where they would not be available for video on demand within 3 to 4 weeks or in any streaming format. And honestly, I think I said the same thing before, but I'm going to say it again because obviously it needs to be said again. This is an asinine, backwards attitude. And honestly, I think it is actually counterproductive to the future of filmmaking. This idea that somehow the theater is the ultimate way to experience film for all people is just ludicrous, and it's just an antiquated idea that I don't understand why people can't let go of it. I just really cannot figure it out because, number one, and I think I made this point before too, but I'll make it again. If movies were best or could only be, and some people will say the only way to see a movie is in a theater. Well, if that was true, you would have no home video market. There would be no streaming. There would have been no VHS stores, no Blu-rays, no Laserdiscs, no nothing. There would not have been the wealth of stuff that was straight to video, no theater involved, that in many cases is far superior material, in my opinion, the stuff that you would see in a theater. None of that would exist if that nonsense statement was actually true. It also assumes that the theater-going experience is ideal for most people, which it certainly is not. A lot of these people, especially on YouTube, they're going to film festivals. They're going to theaters that are geared towards a cinematic experience. That is certainly not what everybody gets to experience. There's an art house, several art house theaters in San Francisco, which fortunately for me is only about 90 minutes away. But I'm sure there's many people who don't have access to theaters like that. And so they'll go in there and they'll want to watch a movie and they'll hear somebody playing on their phone, people chewing on food, people just talking, being rude, not caring, because for them, the movie isn't really the point of being there. It's kind of a social experience. Now, none of that is bad. This is not me saying that we should just get rid of theaters. I'm all for people seeing movies in any format that they can with the least barrier to entry possible. I want people to see more movies, not less. But this is a very, I don't want to necessarily say it's a privileged attitude because I don't really think it's necessarily that. It's just I think it's, well, maybe privileged is the right word. Maybe it's an ignorant attitude because it assumes that everybody has to consume a movie the same way, that everybody enjoys a movie the same way. Frankly, I was pretty much dead on theaters before the pandemic, and that kind of did it for me. But I already didn't like going to the theater because often, I mean, even if you got lucky and got a theater where most people were actually listening to the movie, it wasn't even all that uncommon for there to be problems with the movies. And now that we have great TVs at home and often very good sound systems, or at the least good enough for most people, again, I think that the point of filmmaking should be to have people experience your art any way they want to. That's what it should be. You want as many eyes on what you're making as possible. It really shouldn't matter what the format is. If you make something that speaks to people, it really won't matter where they see it, how they see it, even on a phone, which to me is impossible. But I'm not somebody who's young anymore. So on a phone people do. They sit on TikTok on their phones all day. Obviously, the medium speaks to them. Just because I can't understand it and may not think it's ideal doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. So again, this idea that movies are best experienced in the theaters. You know what? Movies are best experienced in any format where you're allowed to watch them. That's the beginning, the middle, and the end, and everything else is just garbage. Later.